Sometimes the only way to have a change happen, we have to look at the democratic system worldwide. We see that the way that they get things done is through voting. Never mind what you feel, what you like, your will be stood upon, will be trampled upon if enough people around you decide to go ahead with something, which is exactly what's going on right now. The enemy is using a massive amount of deception to hide the truth. And because people don't have the truth, they make bad choices. If you don't know that there's an open pit in front of you, but it's covered, but you don't have that piece of information that tells you that the covering on it is purely just an illusion, you're going to fall into it. If that piece of land that's in front of you looks like just flat terrain and it's not, and it is camouflaged, you will end up falling in the pit. And this is what we are seeing. We're seeing a world that is being confounded by lies, deception, and human beings are falling into a trap. And the ones that are trying to tell them not to fall into the trap are not being heard because their voice goes against mainstream narrative. The prince of the power of the air continues to bluster his way through this as quickly as he can in the hope that his cosmic lie, so massive that there's no way anyone could possibly believe that world governments are operating against, in violation of Romans 13. Even those who have the restrainer in of them, these are the people that are having their lives steamrolled over because of this enemy, the way the enemy is operating. The enemy is pushing through. And I always contend that God has complete sovereignty in every aspect of our lives. But there's one place that he doesn't, like God does not lie. You know, this is a covenant. We know this is a convention of the Bible. It's a convention of creation. God does not lie. But the other convention, the big one, is the free will convention. God will not step over someone's free will. However, there are things that one can do legitimately under God's law to bring about a change in God's heart. And one of them is not just prayer, as powerful as prayer is, but it's also a democratic convention among humans that they collectively make a choice. Once humans have collectively made a choice, it doesn't matter. It's kind of irrespective of somebody's free will. And we see this happening in parliaments and senates, in the electoral vote, all the time. There are things that you don't believe in, you don't like, you don't want it to happen that way. But yet government is able to bluster their way through and get it done because there's enough people to give them a majority vote. Sometimes it's conned and faked. In most cases, as we have seen in the last few years, a lot of the votes that should have gone in a different direction have been cast illegitimately, perhaps, and we see this again and again, especially, in the United States. We saw this happen in a very big way, where the will of the people was not agreed to. This enemy was able to, using media, find a way to make it look like the opponent, the opposition party, was able to run the show, was able to actually have a win, when in actual fact they had no win. They had no win. Someone with a very powerful presence publicly goes up against someone who's operating out of a basement, with someone else operating out of a basement behind him. Honestly, but the world fell for it. And within the context of the end times, in the context of the harvests, there had to be a portion of those libs that had to be brought into the harvest, Democrats. But now that that's sort of run its course and there are no more Lib Dems to come on board, we're going to see that at the last Trump, Donald will appear out of nowhere again and will have a second term. From past historical experiences, we can see the governments in the United States on several occasions were actually at the time run by both the Lib Dems and the Republicans. That happened. They shared government. And they shared government normally in times of emergency or times of war. There were situations where both of the sides of the same coin showed up in the same office to run the show. So when I say pray, I'm talking about even within the context of a family. If you have a divided family, pray. Pray and win support, win votes, right? If you have a family of 6, you need 3 or 4 people on your side imploring God to give you a win. If you have a family of 5, you need 3 to have a win. You know, because God doesn't violate someone else's free will. If someone is set against something and you are trying to protect them because you love them, you want them alive and not dying anytime soon, you know, and the message is not going really clearly, it hasn't been communicated very clearly, you need to be able to muster up enough courage to be able to go to the different people in that family and say, would you pray? Would you pray for this thing? Because sometimes there are members in the family that are sitting on a fence. They're neutral. They neither believe in this thing, and they certainly are not on your side either, because your side means law. You know, it means doing the right things. It means obeying God. And as we know, mankind's natural proclivity is not to obey God, and it's not to be godly. But if you can ask someone who's on the fence and say, would you pray? Would you pray for the union of this family? And you know that that person could potentially be strong, then that is a way forward. That is a way forward in uniting seriously hurt and broken families right now. So, brothers and sisters, consider that point right out of the world, but nevertheless a point that has sway in the kingdom of heaven, because we've seen this historically everywhere, that whenever majorities rule against minorities, they normally get their way. And it's not even about getting your way, it's really about what really is of value, you know, not only to moving forward, but also to God. You know, we have things that we need to do. We have things that we need to do while we are here on earth to better the earth, to better. That sounds a little contradictory, because, you know, in essence, anything that we try to do to make things better here on earth go against God having his son on the throne. You know, we don't want to go against that. We certainly want to pray within God's will, but the way I see it is that there's a balancing act happening all the time. You know, where there's a family that wins, there's another family that possibly goes down a different route. You know, where there's a system of government that wins in an area, there's another system of government that doesn't win in another area. And these are interchangeable at some point. So there is a democratic process to this whole winning through a matter of dissenting opinion in the family. It was just something I wanted to share with you, because I think it has some value, and you might think it has some value to winning back some of the lost family members in your family. We bless you, brothers and sisters. Thank you.